Hello, everyone. It's Wednesday, July the 5th, and I'm tickled to death to be back. I promise you, I got to say just one thing, but this wasn't any fun. I'll promise you that. But the other thing I would just tell all of you, I never had a gallbladder issue in my life, never. And all I've heard about, people, getting their gallbladders out or having a gallbladder issue wasn't anything serious at all. I mean, it wasn't nothing. I mean, that's how I thought of it anyway. But after a lot of consultation with a lot of different docs and a lot of really super minds, that's not true. And you really, if you've got any issue whatsoever, I would just tell you, absolutely get it checked out. Listen to the docs. I mean, this thing, for me, it wasn't a great big deal, but at the same time, I would tell you that take heed, because it can be very, very, very serious. So anyway, but I'm doing pretty dadgum good. Like I said, it wasn't easy, but I'm doing good. Everything will be great on my end. But we're joined today by our Secretary of Revenue, Dave Hardy, and West Virginia Housing Development Fund Director, Erica Bogus, they'll be on with us in just one second. We reported our end of the year, and it's gotten to the point where we just accept that, and it's just like old hat, well, okay, we reported 1.8 or 1.85 or 1.7 or whatever, incredible surplus and everything. And all of us know it's a big surplus, but the thing that is just difficult to even begin to measure. We are reporting now right at a $1.85 billion surplus. Now let me just tell you this really quick, okay? And that is just this. Not only does it exceed anything that the state of West Virginia could ever imagine, just think for a second what $1 billion is. And this is approaching $2 billion. What is $1 billion? It's 1,000 millions. Now think about that. 1 billion is 1,000 millions. It's just more money than any of us could comprehend. And we basically ended up with 1,800 millions ahead of budget. And so with all that, we can do a lot of great stuff. We've already done a lot of great stuff. And but I'm going to let our Secretary of Revenue, talk to you just a minute about all the different things that we've got going on. And I would say this with all my soul. We could have frivolously thrown the money away. We didn't have any pet projects. Not in my administration is there going to be pet projects. There's a lot that we're doing. But with all that being said, the number one thing right off the get-go was we had to staunch the rainy day fund back up. And so I think the rainy day fund cost us $231 million of this dollars. We staunched our rainy day fund back up. So it's off the chart. Great. Think about this just a second. We gave the largest tax cut in state history, 21 point and some odd percent, I think 21.25% across the board. With that being said, we put $400 million of the surplus that's in the budget, $400 million in a reserve fund, just in case we had some rainy day blip on the screen in regard to our tax cut. There's so many things like this that are out there that we're doing, and they're great. Whether it be $50 million for the Cancer Center at WVU, or $29 million for the Osteopathic School, or all the different things that are happening, $300 million we set aside in the budget. And for people that can't read the budget, well, they just can't read the budget, and they just want to complain. But there's $300 million in there for repairs to our colleges, to our jails. I mean, it's really good. Really, really, really good. You should be very proud, West Virginia. it'd be nice for me to sit here and say, oh, pat me on the back. That's ridiculous. We've all done this. Not only have all of us here done this, whether it be the legislature or my administration or whatever it may be, but you've done it, West Virginia. You're the ones that are making this happen. It's your money, and you make it happen, and you make it happen for us every single day. All we've done is not frivolously thrown away your money. We've managed the store the right way. So with all that being said, what you need to do, West Virginia, is keep on keeping on just like you're doing right now. You know, because at the end of the day, don't think that this couldn't go south. We could blow our own legs off by doing stupid things. We're not going to be doing stupid things on my watch. I'll promise you that. And West Virginia is teed up right now to go unbelievable for decades and decades and decades to come. So, you know, Mr. Secretary, come on and talk to us, but good stuff right now.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you very much. Of course, June 30th at midnight, as we're required by the state constitution, West Virginia closed its books for fiscal year 23. And of course, at 12:01 a.m., July 1st, we reopened our books for fiscal year 24. Fiscal year 23 was historic in every sense of the word. And I won't belabor the point, but let me give you some cold, hard data to the people of West Virginia that'll make you understand how well we are doing. We set an all-time record. We set 6 all-time records for revenue in fiscal year 23. The first record that we set was the most revenue in total that we've ever had, and it was $6.483 billion, which represented a growth rate from last year, and we set a record last year, fiscal year 22, of 10.1%. To put that into context, a growth rate of 10% in our revenue is $600+ million. So our revenue grew literally over $600 million more in 12 months, which is $50 million a month. Looking at what our revenue sources are, number one, personal income tax. Despite the fact that we passed a historic personal income tax cut of 21.25% this year, we finished the fiscal year with a 6.4% increase in personal income tax, which means, of course, West Virginians are earning more dollars. Therefore, we are receiving more revenue in personal income tax. It grew by 6.4%, and the total amount was $2.66 billion. For those of you that are seeking a refund, I talked to our tax commissioner this morning. 98.5% of our state income tax refunds are out in your hands. The remaining 1.5% are being held for whatever reason. Generally, it's because there's something missing from the tax return, or there's an error, or there's an issue with the tax return. If you are expecting a revenue or an income tax refund and you haven't received it yet, please contact our state tax department and go to our website so we can try to be sure that you get your refund. Again, these are only those refunds that are missing some crucial information. As far as severance tax goes, West Virginia had a 23.1% increase in severance tax revenue this year. That's primarily due to natural gas. Our natural gas is now 60% of our severance tax revenue. The remaining 40% is primarily coal, and coal also did very well in fiscal year 23. We came up at $946.5 million in severance tax revenue for this fiscal year. Consumer sales tax, a very large revenue source for our state. We had a 5.7% increase from our record last year, and our consumer sales tax, which is our largest revenue source, was 1.750. Of course, it's the second largest after personal income taxes. We did this even in June, we had an increase of our consumer sales tax. So we were strong all the way up to the finish in June. As far as our corporate net tax, corporate net income tax continues to just impress us with its growth. And this means that there's more companies in West Virginia paying more tax. We had a 14.6% increase in corporate net income tax, which came out to $420 million. This is a record that was last set in 2008. So even though we have cut our corporate net income tax rates, we still broke a record for corporate net income tax that had been in place for 15 years. The other revenue source that has come up dramatically in fiscal year 23 is our interest income. Last year, our interest income was essentially zero because of how low the interest rates were. Due to the fact that West Virginia is doing a very good job maintaining its cash at this point, we were able to earn $134.2 million in interest income based on higher interest rates and the fact that we have a higher cash reserve. So as I said a minute ago, when you add all that up, those large revenue sources, and that is what West Virginia's bread and butter is, are those four big revenue sources plus interest income, our overall growth rate was 10.1%. Those were the 6 all-time records, and let me then do some basic math here. Our surplus was $1.847 billion, and the surplus section of our budget, the budget that was proposed by the governor and passed by the legislature in March, was $1.165 billion. And for those of you that aren't familiar with the surplus section of the budget, essentially what it says is if we finish the year with a surplus, then we will spend our surplus in the following fashion. And we had 32 different items in our surplus section, and they total $1.165 billion. Some of those items that I think we will find are very large and important. We had $282 million set aside for deferred maintenance for our colleges, universities, and correctional facilities. Now, this is an example of what we are trying to catch up decades of deferred maintenance on state facilities, including our correctional facilities, our colleges, and our universities. This is not base building. This is taking the benefit of the surplus and applying it to deferred maintenance that's gone on sometimes 20 or 30 years. It's been neglected. The SBA, the School Building Authority, they have a lot of issues right now with inflation and that the cost of building new schools has gone up. So there's an allocation of $40 million more to the School Building Authority in our surplus section. A state laboratory, the legislature identified an issue, and the governor as well, involving our deficient state laboratories, our state police, our health department, our agricultural secretary, all stated that our laboratories are ancient and obsolete. So the legislature and the governor proposed $125 million toward the construction of a new consolidated state laboratory. This is a one-time expense. The West Virginia University Cancer Institute, we've allocated $50 million in our surplus section toward that very worthwhile project. $29 million to the West Virginia School of Osteopathic Medicine in Lewisburg. And $400 million has been allocated to what we call our Personal Income Tax Reserve Fund. This is a fund that we use to pay refunds and pay back to you, the citizen, your income tax refunds as they come due. So we put $400 million in that fund, and that's only about 5 or 6 things out of 32 that I've mentioned in the surplus section. The surplus section has become the way that we take the benefit of holding down our expenses, holding down our base budget, waiting till the fiscal year is over, and then allocating dollars toward unmet needs. This is a very responsible way to do budgeting, in that the baseline budget is held to a very base number, And then at the end of the fiscal year, much like you might close down your own personal financial books at the end of the year, then we have the dollars to allocate toward these very large projects. These are one-time expenses, and many folks have asked, well, what happens if your state's revenues start to downturn? We are ready for that because we have not allowed the state's base budget to become elevated beyond what it should be. So we are in a good situation by using this surplus section year in and year out to continue to improve our state. When you do the math and you take the surplus section down from the surplus, there was $682 million. Then we did the next responsible thing, the thing that we are asked to do under state code, and as we are required to put so many dollars into our state rainy day fund. So we put $231 million into our state rainy day fund. That puts it well in excess of $1.1 billion. That's the foundation to our financial house, and that's what keeps the state's credit rating on Wall Street at very good, stable, and very attractive to investors when we sell our bonds. That leaves $451 million that are unappropriated from our $1.847 billion surplus. I know there's been discussion, and I certainly won't speak for the legislature or the governor, about whether some of those dollars might go into highways, because in the past we have allocated surplus dollars year in and year out to help catch up all the deferred maintenance on our highways. So we're in a wonderful situation. It's because there's been fiscal strength in our budget. Since this governor has been in office in 2017, year in and year out, we've controlled the base budget. The legislature has supported that, and now we're seeing the benefit of that. So as we look forward to fiscal year 24, we've got another tax cut coming in fiscal year 24. In calendar year 24, your property taxes will be rebated to you dollar for dollar on all your personal property, your vehicles. So West Virginians are going to see more tax relief. In fact, in calendar year 24, between the income tax reduction of 21.25% and the property tax rebates, we'll see about $700 million going back to you, the taxpayers of our state. So hopefully we can keep going as we move into fiscal year 24. And Governor, I'll turn it back over to you for any other comments that you would like to make.
Well, Dave, you were kind enough to thank a lot of folks, but you've been a major player. And I thank you. I thank all your staff, all the different folks that work right hand in hand with us as we've been through this. It's been a whale of a ride, and we want to keep it going. So that we're going to do that, and we're going to all run through the finish line. I'll assure you that. But that man right there has been a big key. So Dave Hardy, thank you, sir. Before I go to Eric, I do want to mention a couple things that I don't think Dave mentioned everything, but just imagine, this labs issue, whether it be the ag labs or the state police or on and on and on, it's been an ongoing nightmare. I mean, really and truly, and we need updated labs. We need to be absolutely doing better and better and better work there and everything. And we've gotten it done, and the people have been able to put it together. But there's $125 million in the budget that we put in the budget way back when and everything for, building new labs and everything. That'll be great for the state of West Virginia. And something that's not a lot of money, but something that we need to do and absolutely do, and that is this: be sure that there's not people going hungry in the state of West Virginia. We've got an emergency fund of $10 million in the Posey Perry, and Posey Perry was my uncle, and he just recently passed away, and what a great man. He worked in the mines the biggest part of his life, and then, in addition to that and everything, he worked at the food banks and food pantries and did an incredible job in southern West Virginia. So we named it on his behalf and everything, but it's $10 million. It's surely not very much money in the scope of things, but we want to try to do everything we possibly can to see that people aren't hungry in this state. I mean, it's just no way that should be. So lots and lots of good stuff. And now, you know, if Erica Bogus could come on and talk to us about all kinds of great stuff. You know, we had the federal government had a homeowners program before, you know, that they were helping people through the COVID times with mortgages and utilities, property taxes, insurance, whatever it may be. And there's some level of extension of that, you know, to eligible folks right now. And we want to be sure and we tell everybody about it where they can take advantage of it. And so Erica tells all about it.
Okay, thank you, Governor. Always appreciate you being able to announce these things for us and bring the attention it deserves. And I'm glad you're on the mend. So a little over a year ago, as the governor alluded to, we opened the West Virginia Homeowner Rescue Program. And that provided homeowners with past due mortgage payments, utilities, real property taxes, insurance, homeowner fees. And we've expended almost $20 million to 4,700 homeowners across the state on that program. So today we're introducing a new component of the rescue program to fund home repairs necessary to maintain the safety and livability of a homeowner's primary residence. And these types of repairs would include things like accessibility modifications such as chair ramps or bathroom grab bars, roof repairs, heating, cooling repairs, plumbing or electrical system repairs, or structural problems. This is not a remodeling program. These are repairs that are critical that would allow a homeowner to safely remain in their home rather than having to move. We can fund up to $10,000 for each eligible household. And the eligibility for this program is the same as it is for the Homeowner Rescue Program. There are income limits and COVID hardship requirements there. And for those that have already received some assistance under the rescue program, you are also eligible for this program and not need to start a new application. Home repairs must be completed by licensed and insured contractors that are selected by the applicants. The best place to get information on all of this is the Home Rescue website. It's wvhomerescue.com, and all the information you need on eligibility and how to select a contractor to help you get started with your repairs is provided on that website. And if you don't have the ability to do an online application, we can also provide paper applications. But there's a huge need, I know, in the state for these types of repairs that will allow people, especially our elderly population, to stay in their homes. So we're really hopeful that people will take advantage of this opportunity.
Okay, Erica, you know, I didn't catch the end of what you were saying there. I was talking to my folks about a couple other things here, but you know, today I'm also announcing that I have appointed Brian Cunningham as the director of PEIA. Jason Hott was you know, our interim. He'll go back to his position. And, you know, Brian is, a little bit about Brian. Brian has spent his career working with community health centers and nonprofits. And he's most recently, he was the director of the West Virginia PATH program and a consultant to the Medicaid management or managed care program. Naturally, I'm really excited to bring Brian on as our director of PEI. It's a big job, and I'm sure he'll take the task and run with it. And we feel very, very confident that this is the man to be able to step into this position now. Okay, I've got some IIJA website stuff information, but today I'm excited to announce that we have rebuilt our infrastructure website so that West Virginians can see the data on federal funding more accurately and transparently. There's lots of stuff. I want to read you just this right here. You know, of approximately let me go back. We're expected to receive $7 billion in federal funding between 2022 and 2027. You know, perhaps the largest federal infrastructure investment program in our history and everything, but of that, approximately $4.4 billion has already been announced, you know, for West Virginia. The IIJA projects in the state include $3 billion for highway projects, $506 million for bridge replacements and repairs, $487 million going towards clean drinking water projects, $190 million for public transportation, $100 million for broadband expansion, $46 million to build electric vehicle infrastructure, $44 million for our airports, $14 million for cybersecurity, and $11 million for protection against wildfires. Now just think about it. Those dollars flowing into our state and everything, you know, it's just true that lots and lots and lots of good stuff will happen here. You know, we're on our way to finalizing all of our infrastructure of highways. And I go back, and I've got to tell you this real quick, but I'll never forget, and I give all the credit to the good Lord, but this was a heck of an idea. You know, I was at my house, and I kept thinking over and over and over and everything, and I wasn't sworn in yet and everything, but what are you going to do? What are you going to do? I mean, absolutely all indications are our state's bankrupt. What are we going to do to create an instant job? How do you do that? How do you create an instant job? I mean, you could go out here and level off a piece of land and try to find a suitor to come in and build something there, but that's going to take years to pull it off. How do you create revenue to a state that is bankrupt? What do you do? I mean, I kept saying to myself over and over and over, well, we can continue on the pathway of just cut and cut and more, cut more and cut more. And every time we did that, more and more and more people left us, and they moved. They had to get a job. They moved to Charlotte and Atlanta and Denver and on and on and on. They had to. And every time somebody left, their revenue to the state of West Virginia left, and the hole got bigger and bigger and bigger. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? And then, believe it or not, I was in the shower, and all of a sudden this hit me, just pow. I said, well, what would it cost us for every living, breathing West Virginian? What would it cost us if we let every road job that we had on the books, everything we had on the books tomorrow? That in itself would create an instant job, instant revenue. Well, in some form of fashion of just that, that's what Roads to Prosperity was all about. And we announced it, the legislature went along, and boom, off we went. A state that was in trouble beyond belief, and look at where we are right now. So with all that being said, you know, as we continue on this pathway, it's going to take us probably $7 or $8 billion to finish all of our network, to finish it. And not only that, it's going to take money along the way, like we've already been pouring in, to get us back on the right path. I mean, for God's sakes, we sold our maintenance equipment. Absolutely, we would have sold anything and everything just to keep breathing. Well, that isn't going to work. I mean, one thing for sure, that isn't going to work. And so, with all that being said, here we go now. Lots and lots and lots of projects we've already got going. Surpluses beyond belief, and here we go. So, good times ahead, good times. You know, I want to announce today that I'm very proud to announce a partnership between our DNR and the Buckskin Council of the Boy Scouts of America. I mean, you know, you say what you want, but really and truly, the Boy Scouts are an incredible organization, and they do unbelievable work, and they train a lot of young kids and everything. boys and girls, from the standpoint that we want to include the Girl Scouts as well. But they train a lot of folks and everything into the very principles that are the foundation of who we are. And so with all that being said, now what we've got is we've got a partnership between our DNR and the Boy Scouts. And with all that being said, there's going to be so much goodness that can come out of that can, from the standpoint of involvement with our state parks and the involvement of a great organization. So I salute all those. I want to read this one thing is, as with all Boy Scouts of America councils, the Buckskin Council helps youth development, academic skills, self-confidence, ethics, leadership skills, and citizenship skills, along with all the other great things that they'll learn with our outdoor activities. So good deal, really good deal. Okay, I want to talk to you just a second about treatment supervision grants, and today I'm pleased to announce that we're awarding $2.6 million in the Justice Reinvestment Initiative treatment supervision grants, and I have no idea why this name includes my name in this, but it does, and and that may very well be the state of justice, but there's 13 projects in West Virginia that will receive funding to sustain or grow the treatment supervision programs. This initiative aims to save lives and to reduce incarceration rates by providing effective treatment and supervision to those in need. Our investment in these projects is a critical step towards a brighter future for the state, and we remain committed to supporting them as much as possible. Let me tell you, and just a few years back, and time really goes, but drugs were totally cannibalized in West Virginia. And there's been incredible project or progress, whether it be Jobs and Hope, Jim's Dream, whatever it be, all the different programs that are going on all over the state and everything, that different folks are doing and everything. And I salute them because we have got to address this issue and to continue to try to pour money and effort in, and we get great returns. So again, I salute and thank all those involved. Okay, this is, I think, the last thing that I have, and it is, but today we have a beautiful lady in Hinton, West Virginia that is turning, or has turned yesterday, on July 4th. How fitting that is. She turned 105 years old. Her name is Myrtle Brab, and Myrtle Brab from Hinton is it's incredible. I mean, she even beat COVID twice. I mean, what an incredible treasure she has been, and and she continues to be. She's a resident of Main Street Care in Hinton, West Virginia, and happy birthday, Myrtle, and just keep it up. Keep it up. Let me be sure that I continue to read happy birthdays to you, and let's make a date that we'll call each other, in 2028 on, at that time you'll be 110, and we'll call each other and talk to each other. And we got a date for July 4th, 2023. I'm sorry, 2028. But nevertheless, congratulations, happy birthday. That's all I've got for right now. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Governor. Let's now go to questions from members of the media. The first today from Mark Curtis with Nexstar Media.
Good afternoon, Governor. And Jordan and CJ, I just want to flag something here. I see someone from my sister station, WTRF in Wheeling, is online, and they are going to want to ask a question. I think it might be Catherine Guyon. But first, let me get to my question. Governor, you became a close ally of Kanawha County Commission President Ken Carper when you were both battling against Amendments 2 and 4, and you were successful in that effort. Obviously, he's under a legal investigation right now. He's having serious health problems. I'm wondering what your confidence level is in him continue running the most populous county in the state and the seat of government. And because some have said maybe he should step down and retire or resign. So I'm wondering what your confidence level is in him being able to run this county, being under this very dark cloud right now. And the other part of this is the police investigation has been transferred to the West Virginia State Police from the Charleston Police Department. Of course, WVSP is also under a cloud of investigation. So the second part of the question is, what's your confidence level in the state police being able to get to the bottom of this very controversial and serious investigation and matter?
Okay, Mark, let me talk about Kent just for a second. And there's an ongoing investigation. Man, you know, I can't get in the middle of that and get in the weeds, and I surely am not going to. I've not spoken with, Commissioner Carper in a long time. I mean, really and truly, I called wishing him well when he was going into the hospital before any of this stuff came out, in regard to bypass surgery or whatever surgery he had. But I would no way, and nor do I think any of us should. I think we should let the investigation play its way out. There's no point in piling on. There's no point in if I don't know of Commissioner Carper's, health at this time, but like you're saying, he's having a tough go of it. Why in the world? I mean, he has been a friend, and I wish him the very, very best, first and foremost with his health, but in the investigation, I don't get into all that, Mark. I just don't do it. I think that he'll have to make his own decision whether or not he decides that he wants to step down, but he's been a friend, and he's been a loyal servant to many, many, many folks for a long, long, long time, and I don't see any reason for us to try to jump ahead of the investigation or to try to say, Kent, things are really horrible and everything, and you can't do the job, just drop out of the whole deal. I think that's his decision, and the investigation is put there for just that reason, to do the investigation. So, now, I feel a little bit differently about the state police, and here's my feelings about the state police. I'm confident, that they'll do the job, I absolutely believe that the leader of the band that we have there right now will do the job. I think absolutely, though, just this. I want to see us, and again, we have investigations going on and everything else under the sun, and I think we've got to let that play out. But I'm not comfortable with all the bad stuff that's happened, and I want to see action. That's all there's to it. I want to see action and us react very firmly with ridiculous stuff that has happened. Ridiculous, totally ridiculous. And I don't like it. I don't like it a bit. I think this just going along and investigating and everything else. We have situations that is clear enough that we need to act, and we need to act firmly, in my opinion. Now, I'd also say, and I've said it from day one, who's the first person you call when you're in trouble? And here they come running. And they come running to your rescue over and over and over, and we should be super respectful to the fact that these great people, in the state police and in any kind of law enforcement, position, have saved our bacon over and over and over and over. And I have the most confidence in them and love them with all my soul. But we don't need to keep messing around with this. We need to move as swiftly as we possibly can.
All right, thank you, Mark. Next to Charles Young with WV News.
Hi, this is Charles Young with WV News. Governor, I wondered if you had given any thought yet to who you will be appointing to the board of the West Virginia First Foundation. You'll be picking 5 of the board members who will have to be confirmed by the Senate. I wondered if you had been making a short list and if you knew when that announcement would be made. Thank you.
Charles, it'll be soon. We're looking at the names right now and considering, and it'll be really soon. We're waiting on some lists from locals, but it'll be real soon.
All right, thanks, Charles. Next is Stephen Adams with Ogden Newspapers.
Yeah, Steve Adams with Ogden Newspapers here. This is probably more of a question for Secretary Hardy. I won't ask you to go through or re-explain what you all just explained in regards to why you do the budget the way you do it. But, you know, I know prior to session, starting around the start of the session, I'm sure this has changed since the passage of the tax cut bill and tax breaks. But I know for fiscal year 2024, which we are now in, even with the budget in place, I think you all are expecting, or at least we're expecting, around $6.1 billion by the end of the new fiscal year next June, with a $1.2 billion surplus to come from that. You all have one more year, your final year, to put together a budget for the next fiscal year. So, I mean, you all still feel comfortable with budgeting this way, where you know we're bringing in or expected to bring in significantly more than what the actual revenue estimate, aka the general revenue budget set, is. This is something that you all still feel is the best way in order to appropriate money. Instead of appropriating it in the budget, do it this way by appropriating money through the surplus section of the budget. Thank you.
Stephen, let me comment just a little bit, and then I'm going to pass on to Dave, okay? Because he's better at this than I. But, Stephen, you know, when I first got here, you know, we had a situation, and there's no point in going back and belaboring it, but I pushed them like crazy to budget more dollars than really and truly they probably wanted to do. You know, I felt like that we would see a turn in our severance tax revenues. And so therefore, I pushed in as hard as I possibly could, because we were, good God Almighty, we were broke as broke could be, you know, and we pushed it. We absolutely pushed it and everything. And I would tell you that we made it. And poof, we were across the finish line, and we were pretty dadgum good right off the get-go. But literally, you know, at this point in time right today, I mean, just think, Stephen, what in the world would we want to push it beyond practical and good sense? Why would we want to risk ourselves of getting in a situation to where all of a sudden, you know, we could awaken to an out-and-out collapse in the stock market or whatever it may be, and then all of a sudden you turn around 2 or 3 times and you've got a old dupe moment, you know, and so we don't want those moments, you know, and what we want to do is fund ourselves properly and absolutely grow things like, you know, pay incentives and pay increases and all the different things with highways and everything else on the sun. But we don't want to just frivolously get ourselves in a situation to where all of a sudden we could awaken to a real problem. But Mr. Secretary, you'll do a better job explaining, but that's my thoughts.
Simply put, controlling the baseline budget works, and it's worked very, very well, and we're seeing the benefit of that. If you let the baseline budget grow exponentially with good times, in other words, good times with revenue, then the baseline budget grows right along with the revenue. The moment you have a downturn, you have what we inherited here in January of 2017. You have a budget that's upside down and very, very difficult and hard decisions that have to be made. So the way that we have done it, and the governor has proposed it, in the last 5 years has worked wonderfully. And you're seeing the benefit of that today. Tax cuts, deferred maintenance funded, more money put in schools, more money put in highways, yet at the same time, we are ready for a rainy day if a rainy day comes.
All right, thank you, Steve. Next to Anna Saunders with WCHS and Fox 11.
Hi, Governor. Thanks for taking the question. I just wanted to get an update on where things stand with a special session to address the corrections staffing vacancies. Are meetings happening between your office, the House and Senate, and are we at all closer to calling a special session soon? Thank you.
And this was Anna, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, Anna, listen, thanks so much for your question, and I would tell you that it's likely in August before we can have a special session, but our offices our folks are meeting constantly with the folks upstairs, and you're correct in this, Anna. We do have a real situation with our correctional officers and vacancies, and we're making some headway and everything. We need to some way, somehow make significant headway. And I've tried 2 times. In all honesty, I've sent up bills 2 different times. Both times they were shot down. One came through, I think the Homeland Security folks, one came from me. We need to do some kind of locality pay. We need to do something, absolutely something, to really move the needle. And so, as soon as we can get to the point in time to where we have got an agreement, I'll call a special session in the next 10 minutes. That's all there is to it. But there's no point in calling a special session, spending your money for 2 or 3 days or a week or whatever it may be, listen to 15 different, solutions and go nowhere. We don't need that. We've got to come to an agreement, and we're working on it, and I'm very, very hopeful that we would. Good folks in the legislature, but we got to get to an agreement on this. This is silly.
All right, thanks, Anna. Next to Randy Yohe with West Virginia Public Broadcasting.
Hey, good afternoon, Governor and colleagues. Governor, I wanted to go back to Mark Curtis's question, because you springboarded there into the state police investigations, and you talked about ridiculousness. And I imagine you were referring to some of these recent court filings regarding this hidden camera in the state police women's locker room, and now allegations there were multiple victims, and multiple defendants are accused of sexual harassment, a hostile work environment, basically a troubling culture of sexism and cover-ups. Now, you've said no stone should be left unturned, all guilty parties should be held accountable, and there needs to be action. But it's been months since this investigation began. What do you say to the 70 or so female law enforcement officers involved in lawsuits who used that locker room during that time and have some deep concerns?
Well, what I say is, a million apologies. There's no excuse. There's no excuse whatsoever. I do have confidence in the leader of the band that we have there right now. But at the same time, I am the most impatient guy in the room. And these folks, it's different in my view, because these folks are law enforcement folks. They're the very people that are supposed to know the laws. Now, I mean, it's not good for someone to break a law that's outside of a law enforcement officer, but to me, it's a different animal. These people are supposed to know the laws, and for them to have done stuff that violates women in every way, ridiculous. I mean, I can't accept it for 10 minutes. I'm trying as hard as I can to work within the constraints that I'm working in, but I am an impatient guy, you know. And here's the thing, you know, for 70 women that we're looking at, and maybe, just maybe, there's a goodly percentage of those women that maybe, just maybe, this did not happen to. You know, on the other hand, you know, what is the percentage? We started out down the pathway in this, that there was one lady that this involved. And then all of a sudden we thought there was two. You know, my concern has been, could this be a bunch of kids that were coming and, you know, with their moms or dads and using the women's locker rooms or whatever it may be? I mean, we have got to have real action, and there is no excuse. There's none. There's no excuse. If someone is absolutely guilty of this, there's no excuse. Let's get on with the action and get this thing to a conclusion. I know people are trying. There are laws and there's a process and everything. I get all of that. I get every bit of that. And we want to abide by the process and the laws, no question, the investigations. Everybody has their due, you know, in court and wherever it may be. We do not want to infringe on people's rights and everything, but we have absolutely violated a bunch of absolute, you know, very loyal troopers and everything, you know, and the women that have been violated here is just no excuse, no excuse. So I say we got to get on with it. That's all there is to it.
All right, thanks, Randy. It does look like we have somebody from WTRF TV. If you would identify yourself, please.
Yeah, hi, Governor. This is Catherine Guyon from WTRF. I also want to ask about the state police investigation now that, you know, we're seeing all these lawsuits, and you did touch on, you know, your desire to have reform and things going in the right direction. But my question to you is, as I've spoken to the attorneys that represent a lot of these women, they say they want, you know, reform in the training process in the academy, which is where all of these incidents allegedly took place. You know, you expressed your desire that you don't want to wait any longer for reform. Would you ever consider, you know, not waiting for these lawsuits to play out and just calling for, you know, taking more reform action, maybe looking at the way the academy is run? I just want to get your thoughts on, you know, if you would call for any immediate action rather than waiting for these lawsuits to play out.
Well, Catherine, you know, like I said, I'm not the patient guy in the room. I am the super impatient guy in the room. And as I understand it, there are things going on with the academy and their training and everything, and there are changes that have really been made in regard to that and everything. But you know, I really do believe that those changes are either happening or have already been made. But Catherine, you know, I just can't imagine, you know, a lady a trooper, you know, whomever it may be, you know, that feels like maybe there's no concrete proof that she was involved in this from the standpoint of the cameras and she was violated. Maybe not. But can you just imagine not knowing and the confidence you place in you know, per se, the state police, the very, very, very home that you should feel the most secure in? You know, I just don't like it. I just don't like it, and I've expressed that view over and over and over and over and over, and I expect action. That's all there is to it.
All right, thank you. Governor, back to you.
Well, we've covered a lot of stuff. It's great being back with you, and I never left from the standpoint of, you know, in touch with everybody, but it's great to be back here and with you, and like I said, whether it be, you know, record surpluses or all kinds of stuff, you know, goodness coming to West Virginia and different dollars from the Fed side, and just a lot of stuff, but you know, I truly mean this. I love the questions in regard to the state police, and you know, I hope everybody can see where I stand and my urging to move forward with that as well. So anyway, thank you so much for having me. Thank you for your well wishes and your prayers. Only thing I'd end by saying just this: if you've got a gallbladder issue and everything, like for myself, I had no gallbladder issue, but it became an issue. Boom, and I thought, well, it's nothing and everything. Well, that's not the case, and everything. If you knowingly have a gallbladder issue and everything, take it seriously. You know, when the best docs in the land looked at you and said, you know, people that have this and it turns the wrong way and they get septic and all that kind of stuff, 10% of them we lose. All of a sudden it becomes way, way, way more serious than what I ever dreamed that a gallbladder issue could be. So anyway, thank you so much for your well wishes and prayers, and God bless each and every one of you. Thank you now.